Hello, and welcome to podcast number 10.
11.
Yeah,
Lawless was 10.
I had mixed feedback about Lawless's one.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did you hear?
My mum listened to maybe a tenth of it.
And she had to shut it off, didn't she?
No, she was just busy.
Was
she was just busy.
So, any news for you?
Well, no, we have to introduce the guest first, otherwise it's a bit awkward when they just sit in between the
Go
news.
on then, Callum.
This is Ben McCulloch Young, who we used to cycle with back in the day.
Say his last name again.
McCulloch.
I like that little...
You have a go,
You can say it.
McCulloch.
Yeah, that's close enough. That was pretty
Yeah.
good, actually. That's the best German pronunciation of my name that I've heard so
Nice.
far. So,
McCulloch.
yeah.
We've lost all the listeners after that anyway.
I know.
It's a bit more ASMR. And we're also within your house for the first time, which is pretty special.
Yes, we are. Well, I've invited you up many times, but you never made it up, so...
I invited Cian to come along.
What did he say?
No, because that's why he's not here.
Well, that's disappointing, isn't it?
Is it?
No, not really.
So yeah, well, I met up with Cian for the first time in a little while last night. So that was nice. Went a little food tour around the city.
Had a few clubbing as well.
No, had a few sparkling waters, and it was nice. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And we're on tour on Monday.
We are, yeah. We're going on a big bike ride.
Is that a secret bike ride, or is it?
No, it's open, yeah. I'm allowed to talk about it.
You're like, well, talk about it then.
So we're going on a bike ride from Manchester to Wrexham, which is like 70k.
Yeah.
Around 70k with 6 of us, and we're stopping in the pub midway through. And Dual said he wants to have like a lock-in in the pub or something.
Yeah, but I think the more interesting thing about the story is who the 6 people are, not just that we are cycling from Manchester to Wrexham.
Yeah, so we've got Owen,
which isn't interesting at all.
Owen, John Dibben might come, but he's probably going to bail last minute again.
Hold on, let's talk about John Dibben bailing, because he's had some horrific bails in the past.
I know.
He's the kind of guy where you wake up in the morning and you're not quite sure if he's going to be there, but yeah, you've got plans to go to London or something like that.
I know. Worst thing was when he bailed on Andy Tennant's wedding and just didn't turn up.
Did he not?
No, he just didn't turn up.
Well, it's not as bad as Cian and Maddie bailing on Matt Crampton's wedding after having gone to the stag do.
That's terrible, yeah.
Seems to be a cycling theme of bailing on weddings.
I know.
Well, cyclists seem to think that being tired is an excuse for literally anything. Like, I'm tired, so I can't do that.
Yeah, these plans have been in place for over a year, but I'm feeling a bit sleepy today, so
I'm
going to pack it in.
Yeah.
Because Cian for Crampo's wedding said he was unbelievably ill.
What
ill.
What did that translate to?
To me, that means hospitalization. To him, it meant having a bit of a head cold.
He's an idiot. Anyways, we got Chris Lawless is coming. Hugh Carthy, who just won the stage at the Tour de Suisse. Or like the Queen stage.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get the podcast going out there as well.
And hopefully we'll try and keep up as well.
Yeah, I just need to make it there first.
Are you taking your e-bike, or are you going to go for the Cervelo?
I'm not sure yet. I think I'm going to go for my Cervelo.
Oh, okay.
70k. I should be able to make 70k.
I don't know. I'm actually slightly concerned about how you're going to last a 70k ride with endurance riders.
They're going really easy.
Yes, but like they've just come off, like, so the national champs are today. One of them just won a stage at the Tour of Switzerland.
We would be fine.
No. I'll be fine. You, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, when was the last time you rode 70k, Phil?
Not that long ago, I rode 60k on my mountain bike.
Oof.
Like
4 weeks ago.
No, but it's an electric mountain bike.
Electric mountain bike, yeah.
So you didn't actually ride it. It was just.
Well, you still pedal it. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like spinning on the rollers. There's like.
Yeah. I guess we find out on the podcast.
Time will
if
tell.
I made it.
I guess we will find out. Yeah.
Any more news?
Oh yeah. So my news is we were talking about Cervelo. BC asked for my bike back again. Couldn't find it, but I had a lovely 65 kilometer ride yesterday on my giant beer bike.
Great.
Good, yeah. And also I talked about my mental health issues for the first time publicly. So that was quite nice to get that over and done with. Because I was just making up a load of nonsense whenever anyone asked me why they're tired, and I got a bit tired of that.
Oh, what's the feedback?
Overwhelmingly positive. So that was good.
That's good.
Not even a single negative. I can't find a single negative comment.
Really?
Yeah.
That's rare.
Especially on Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh no, hold on. My trolls got involved at one point. I've got a little following of what I suspect are Russian pro-doping trolls, and one of them got sidetracked about something, but it was nothing to do with this article, but it happened to be on that trail.
Oh, really?
But yeah, no, it went really well. I did an article with Hugh McDonald of the Daily Mail, and he's a really talented journalist. He's seen a few things in his time. He's brilliant as well because he's a journalist. He just doesn't give a shit. Like, he's about 65 years old or something, or maybe, hold on, like, I'll put it lower. He's about 55 and over, and
he can't lose his job anymore.
He can't lose his job anymore. Yeah. So it's like sometimes he was saying, like, he got asked to write a piece about how Andy Murray's like a drama queen, and he didn't believe it. So he was just like, nah, I can't be bothered. But whereas most journalists, you have to write what you're told, basically.
Yeah.
So he gave me editorial, all that kind of stuff. It was good.
That was a really good piece. I really enjoyed reading it. It was shed a lot of light on the situation, definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of light. How was the sponsor at British Cycling? I guess no one really talked about it.
I haven't been in the building since it's been released. I've been off injured.
Oh, fair enough.
So
you're injured again. What's wrong with you?
My hip is sore again, so I had to take a few days off.
Is that your pussy hip?
Bursitis, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
I've got bursitis in the hip, but it's fine now, so I can train again from tomorrow on.
You literally said that about 2 podcasts ago, and now you're injured again.
I know, it's because I keep pushing the squats, and if I go to failure, so when I fail a set of squats, that's when the bursitis comes back, or like that inflammation in the hip. So
I've got
I
a
just need to be
suggestion.
careful.
I've got a suggestion. Maybe you should squat slightly less, and that might alleviate your bursitis.
Maybe having 220k on your back for 8 isn't going to like help your bursitis that much.
I know. That's
it's
what
just
I'm trying
an
to do
addiction
now.
for you, isn't it? Hard work and training.
Oh,
you just can't get away from it.
I love the hard work.
And you're not at the European Champion Games at the moment?
European Games? No, I'm not.
All right.
Yeah.
A bit of bitterness in there.
Not really.
It's not the championships. People don't understand.
Like,
it's just the Grand Prix. It's not a championship.
Yeah, I feel like they're trying to force something. Yeah, they're trying to force a new competition. I think they're trying to make it because there are the Asian Games. What's the next thing?
Commonwealth Games.
No, not Commonwealth.
European Champion Games.
What's the Pan American Games? And I think they're trying to make European Games now.
So what is it? I've not actually heard about this. Is it like a kind of
no one's heard about it?
It's a second. So last year it was in Glasgow, but that was the European Championships. But now they're trying to just make a separate thing. So I've got a village. They got a village, like a food tour. It's pretty much like the Olympics, but just
like a mini Olympics type.
Mini Olympics, yeah.
But it's in Minsk. I hate Minsk.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
What do you hate about it?
Well, it's the only place I've left where it feels like you're escaping. Like, it's still very... So, like, every other Eastern European nation looks towards the EU, whereas Belarus looks towards Russia for some reason. And there's, like, pictures of the dictator up on the wall. There's still, like, the death penalty. Like, there's random security searches in the street. And then when we left, like, people were getting fines for no reason. And then the airport was shit. And there was carcasses of planes all across in the middle of this forest. It was scary.
Really?
I'd never go back.
Sounds like a welcoming place.
It is, well, yeah, really nice. So good luck to all the athletes that are out there. I actually had to do a good luck message about Minsk, and I said how amazing it was. So that makes me look bad now.
Oh no.
But yeah, let's move on to Ben. So basically, I'm sure a few of our listeners will be wondering what's your story,
who the hell I am,
and who you are. Yeah,
so
but you've got a pretty interesting story, which is why we got you on board.
Yeah, so I've got a pretty colourful sporting history. The way that I know Callum is that we didn't used to cycle together, I wouldn't say, but we cycled at Meadowbank. I took up track cycling, I don't remember what year, after doing triathlon for a wee while when I was younger. And I was British champion for triathlon when I was 16, I think.
I forgot about the triathlon thing.
Yeah.
We've got a triathlon bet.
Yeah.
Are you going to do a triathlon?
No, I said to Callum, he will never be able to do an Ironman under 10 hours.
Well, yeah, of course not.
What? What do you mean, of course not?
Yeah,
see,
that's an extremely impressive time.
No, but you can still do 9:55 or 9:59.
Yeah, but it's pretty hard. Do you know who's doing an Ironman today?
Who?
Bobsleigh.
Yeah, I don't get people who retire and then do
He's
more
not retired.
exercise.
He's not retired.
Is he not?
He's still going for the next Olympics. He's just doing an Ironman mid-season.
He's a sprinter, am I right?
He's a sprinter, yeah.
That is like Usain Bolt doing an Ironman.
Yeah. Yeah. He's probably the top sprinter they have in Germany right now.
How is he getting away with that?
I guess he just does his own thing, doesn't he?
Yeah, but anyway, so the reason why his bet was a little bit outrageous is that he said he would give me all of his worth.
Mm-hmm. At the time, it wasn't a lot.
Yeah, no.
Still isn't a lot.
But I'm waiting to like cash it in, so I'm just like hedging my bets at the moment. And then basically I'll just come over and take over your life once I've done a 9:59, 9:99
I think
Ironman.
I've got no doubt that you can and will do an Ironman at some point. But I think if memory serves, that's like an elite time to go under 10 hours.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I've got a few accolades in my closet. I mean,
you're the most talentless person I've ever seen.
What? I've got some sporting ability in my bag.
I've seen you swim.
Wasn't didn't one of your guests say that becoming a cyclist made her a worse athlete?
It does. It ruins your athleticism, actually.
Yeah. So there you go.
Well, did you find, so going back to your story, did you find that when you took up cycling, you were a worse athlete?
Maybe a little bit. I think, just to continue on. So I did triathlon, then I discovered that I wasn't very good at endurance sport as the distances started going up as I got older. So I decided to have a go at track cycling, and I quite liked it. And I did a bit of the sprinting. I was never very good, but I did like the Tuesday track league and stuff like that. I went to a few British champs, but yeah, I enjoyed it. But then I decided that after that I wanted to do bobsleigh for some reason. So I quite like the idea of just like running fast and being big. So and bobsleigh. So it was kind of like I picked what athletic traits I wanted to have, and then found the sport that fitted in with that.
So it wasn't like a formal transfer process.
No, not at all. That was just me bouncing around maniacally trying to find a sport that I.
So how does that work in the UK? Because you've got the track at Bath, haven't you?
Yeah. So basically there's one
concrete track.
Yeah. There's one training facility in the UK for bobsleigh, and that's at Bath Uni. So I found a track sprinting group, like running sprinting group in Edinburgh. I joined them because bobsleigh's a lot of just like flat out speed, and learned to run basically, which was pretty hard after cycling. My technique was terrible. I was just like destroying my body. But I worked at that for a wee while, and then I think over the course of 5 years, I was really enjoying the training, and I tried out for the British bobsleigh team a few times, and then eventually my training just sort of was going really well for a year, and I got into the squad, and.
So that's an interesting avenue if you want to get into bobsleigh. Basically, just take up track sprinting.
Yeah, essentially, and that's kind of like. That's part of the problem with the British bobsleigh model, is that they don't make any attempt to actually cultivate bobsleigh athletes. They just if you've got a reasonably fast 100-meter sprinter that's pretty big and pretty strong, they'll be a ready-made reasonably good bobsleigh athlete.
So, I know it's not bobsleigh, but with the sliders, I thought they were. So like Lizzie Arnold and
Laura Dees.
I think they were kind of talent scouted a little bit more.
Yeah, so there was that. There was the
Girls for Gold thing.
Yeah, there was Girls for Gold. I think there was Power to Podium as well.
But in the men's, they don't have to do that as much, I guess.
No, there was. Well, I think there were a couple of athletes that came across through the Power to Podium program. But at the time, I'd actually torn my meniscus when Power to Podium was happening, and I was just recovering from surgery at that time. So a few of sort of my bobsleigh contemporaries came through that route. So I just kind of like missed that. But I think those kind of scouting programs, I don't think they really make any difference. I don't think it's a case of if you miss one of those, then you're not gonna like one of those girls that came through the Girls for Gold thing. It's not like they would have missed that and then gone to British Skeleton and said, "Oh, can I get involved?" And they would have been like, "No, you missed the Girls for Gold, so no, you can't come in." I think it's just, but they are like a good route just to get like a huge number of athletes through, get a lot of data, and see who you think's gonna work. But yeah, I went down. The British bobsleigh trials and training are pretty open for the testing days. Literally pretty much anyone can rock up, and They've got...
What are the exceptions?
I think I don't know. They just I would imagine that if there was someone that they just really thought was not gonna crack it in the sport, they would just dissuade them from going. But there were a few times at trials where
that was a sly dig at some of the racism accusations. But
Craig McLean tried to be in the bobsleigh team.
So because that was for a documentary. I think and I could be completely wrong, but he. Obviously, like really powerful athlete, and I think he did pretty well. But they just learning to run for him in the short span of time that he had, just proved very difficult.
So how do you do that as a track sprinter who's not necessarily very coordinated, and we're always known for having amazingly tight hamstrings and as stiff as a plank? How do you manage to change that pattern into being a runner?
It's just we just got to do a huge volume of training with like decent guidance and know exactly what you're trying to do.
Okay, so it's not just about running and kind of going for it, because then you kind of reinforce a bad pattern.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when I first started running after doing track cycling and not doing much running at all for a good few years, and definitely not sprinting, I was like injuring myself a lot. My hamstrings were popping left, right, and centre. I had shin splints that were just absolutely debilitating. But then if you work on like just like adapting to the movement and sorting out your movement patterns, then you'll be fine eventually. But it's just it takes a wee while to get there. Hamstrings are definitely the biggest problem, which was just like they're a big problem for track sprinters anyway. Never mind having a cycling background.
Yeah.
I
feel like this is usually the point where you jump in and say, "Oh, I used to do bobsleigh and I was German champion."
No, but Germany's
they're pretty good. Yeah. I think winter sports is huge in Germany.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because we doing bobsleigh, we spent almost all of our time in Germany, just knocking about Germany.
I guess you spend all your time in Germany. Got sick of the place by the end.
I think winter sport in Germany is probably as big as summer sports.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty huge.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was amazed because there would be bobsleigh on just like evening television in Germany when we were over there, and I was just absolutely shocked when.
Did you have the German autograph hunters?
There are some very strange bobsleigh fans. There was like there was I did get some autograph requests, and they're from like there were these very strange bobsleigh fans. One of them actually, after I'd finished doing bobsleigh, got in touch with me on Facebook. I've no idea how he found me.
Oh, they always find a way.
But he wanted to buy my race suit off me.
No, we've had some of them at cycling.
Yeah, we've had some of them.
Yeah,
and they actually pay quite well.
Yeah,
from what I've heard.
He paid quite handsomely for it.
Yeah, you sold it?
Yeah, I sold it.
Oh, did you wear it before?
He specified that he wanted it unwashed.
Oh,
no, I'm just kidding.
No.
This not like
really.
Yeah. So we've heard a story of a guy who it might be on the podcast fairly soon.
Yeah.
Who asked for a skin suit that hadn't been washed, but then also had a few extra requests on top of it, and they were going to pay a lot of money. Like
how much is a lot?
20,000 was it?
What?
No.
10,000?
No.
2,000?
Like a couple of grand, yeah. Maybe a grand.
That's very significant though, still. For something that you've got for free.
Oh yeah, one skin suit.
Technically still the property of British cycling.
Yeah.
So don't put your kit on eBay, Phil.
I won't.
That was a big scandal, wasn't it?
Oh, the eBay stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with us.
Yeah. I'm not looking at anyone in particular.
But no, we'll talk about before we get into bobsleigh and all that kind of stuff, we want to talk a little bit about what you do day to day.
Okay. So I know this is something you've talked about a wee bit on the podcast, is sort of life after sport. Phil's going to be a big businessman.
Employ Callum.
This is my first time meeting Phil, and he does exude a big businessman energy.
No. The full title is A Big Businessman of Big Business.
Oof. Okay.
And employ. My goal in life is to employ Callum and just
not for anyone's benefit, just purely to belittle him.
So he comes to me, he just has to call me boss.
No, but I've told you a million times.
Yeah,
what's
I know, but it's not going to happen.
Have you ever seen the film Talladega Nights?
Yeah.
So you know when like the guy who's below Ricky Bobby somehow just ends up with the guy's wife, the guy's house, the guy's car, and the guy's business just like overnight, and he sits down and he's like, we have to deal with it. It's just the way it is. It's like, you're not a champion anymore. That's just the way it is. So I'm going to come in one day and I'm going to just like turn everyone against you. I'll be sitting at your desk and I'll just be like...
sitting on the kitchen table here.
No, yeah, I'll just be coming home cooking with Claire and you'll be like, what? And I'll be like, oh, well, yeah, this is how it is now. I'm sorry.
This is how it works.
Like, don't get upset. It's just the way it is.
Sorry, Phil. It's the way of the world.
Shake and bake.
But yeah, so I while I was doing bobsleigh, I wasn't on any form of funding at the time. So I just and obviously my schedule was pretty full with training, with knocking about all over the place for the season. So I did buff butlering, which is basically going to hen parties in a wee bar apron with your bum out and pouring drinks.
How do you get into that?
Chatting to people. It's just like, well, you just follow the money. And I was just like, what can I do for as few hours a week as possible while making as much money as possible with zero qualifications.
On a side note, to like boost Ben's business here, when he first came to the track, he's always been a shredded man. Yeah. Like as much as you're, that's unfair. He's a very shredded man.
Yeah. Well,
more shredded than Ryan Owens.
Yeah.
I think
but he's got the size to put up with it. Like Ryan looks like a Smurf.
Well, I think it's like a family thing because my sister as well is she's probably even more shredded than I am, and someone just decided that the McCulloch young children were going to have great abs for their entire lives, and I'm not.
What's their secret, Phil?
What?
You've always been after a great set of abs.
Yeah, I don't know.
The secret is just to have them and not know how you got them.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But yeah, so I did that for other companies, and it was good cash and very flexible. And then when I stopped doing bobsleigh, I didn't really want to get a proper job. I didn't really have any like conventional work experience or anything like that. So I just decided that I was going to start my own agency, and I've just been doing that ever since. And I gave myself a year to do it, and I was like, if it's still working after a year, then I'll keep doing it, and if not, then I'll find something else to do. But yeah, it's been going really well, and yeah, I think it was a good choice after sport, because you get used to kind of like having your time be your own. And then,
how many naked butlers have you got in your agency?
I've got about 20. We just do Scotland, but before we recorded, I offered Phil. I said that the doors are always open to Phil if he ever wants to don the apron.
I think you mean the audition doors always open.
Yeah, how do you audition? Do you just
where do you advertise?
It's not very professional. I'm not gonna. People don't want to get bored with this, do they?
No, I'm interested. Where do you advertise?
So
we ask everyone how you get into things.
Yeah, just Google AdWords. So you just advertise in certain search terms. Phil's a big businessman, so he'll know all of this lingo. We do like Facebook campaigns and stuff like that. Although Facebook's now really, like literally in the past 2 months or so, they've really clamped down on any advertisements that feature even a partially nude body.
And ban the nipple.
Yeah, literally. So the male nipple's now been banned as well. And I got into an argument with someone at Facebook Dublin headquarters about one of my ads not being approved. And he was telling me that I needed to focus more on the product or service than the model. And I was trying to explain to him. I was trying to explain to him that the model was both the product and the service. But no, my ad got declined. So I can't really advertise on Facebook anymore. So I just rely.
So that's why you come on podcasts these days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is actually just an advertising and recruitment tactic that I'm going for.
Do the hen parties get pretty wild?
Yeah, they do sometimes. I think when I was a whippersnapper doing butlering, sometimes if you walk into the hen party and there's even the slightest bit of fear on you, they'll smell it. Yeah, they'll sniff it out and they'll just eat you alive. But I think after like 6 months of doing it, you learn how to kind of like compose yourself as you go in. Yeah. If anyone tries anything, then you just tell them tell them what's what, and then
whenever we were traveling as a team, I always loved seeing hen parties because like we could always just set them on Jason Kenny basically.
You know Jason Kenny.
So we were like, you'd be standing next to him, you'd be wearing a t-shirt, and you go, "Oh, you're in the Olympics," and I'd be like, "I'm not." But that man over there,
handsome man over there,
is Britain's most successful Olympian. So they'd go run over and like get photos and all this kind of stuff. And they'd be like, "Oh, can I touch your legs?" And I'm like, I just shout, "Give him a kiss if you want."
He loves getting kissed.
If there's one thing Jason Kenny likes, it's attention and unsolicited kisses.
Yeah.
from drunk groups of women.
Yeah. So what's the talk us through when you get a client and the experience and stuff like that. So we were talking about, Jason Kenny getting kisses from hen parties and stuff like that in airports. How does it get outrageous? Is it pretty tame? Or depends on the client.
Yeah, it depends on the client, and it depends. I think it depends what age you are as well. So the younger guys sometimes get a bit get eaten alive if they go in and they're a bit scared and timid. But for the most part, if you just go in with a bit of bravado, you're absolutely fine. But there was one booking of note where it was a very last minute booking, and I happened to be free, so I took it. And I go along, didn't have any info about it, and I go along. It's in a very, very posh part of Edinburgh, and it was in the new town, and it was like this big 3-story townhouse. And so I knock on the door. This woman comes to the door, and everything seems normal, and she like gives me a place to get changed. I go and get changed, and then I go through to where the party's happening. It's a 50th birthday, it turns out. And it's just two of them, just these two women. And so normally when you're butler and you'll do like some party games, you'll like pour drinks and just have a bit of chit chat with the clients. And then but then when I got to this job, it just became very apparent they just wanted me to just stand there and top up their prosecco every so often. Which is fine because they're paying the money, but I just get bored. So I was just like, eventually I was just like, look, I can do other things than just stand here. I should also mention as well that these women were going absolutely bonkers. Like there was just these two 50-year-old women just having a great time, just taking a huge amount of drugs. And
really,
yeah, it was like,
oh my God, wow.
Have you seen Ab Fab?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it's just like that.
Yeah, it's like if you've not seen it, Phil, it's just like it's basically a pair of women in their 50s that just go out like party absolutely nuts. And
I think you'd recognise them if you saw them.
Yeah,
they're quite
maybe.
Big in the UK,
yeah. So it was like, I felt like I was in an episode of that. But they completely misinterpreted what I said, and they said that I could do some hoovering if I wanted to. So I was just like, well, it was better than standing still. So they had a really nice Hoover as well.
Oh,
it was in the early days of those handheld cordless Dysons.
Yeah. Gotta get rid of the evidence fast, haven't you?
Yeah. So I just did some hoovering, and then but yeah, after that it was pretty standard affair. But and then like the really scary bookings are just like they're few and far between, and they're just basically what you'd expect, just women going nuts and just kind of like overstepping boundaries. And then you can tell when you go in, and there's been a few times where I'm just like, I'm leaving, so I'll see you later. And there was one time where I was on a booking with a new guy. This was a good few years ago, and he was a bit nervous, and then we went into this Irish hen party. It's not relevant they're Irish, but I'm just setting the scene for you. They basically were doing like a big group picture, and they kind of like swarmed us, and they were like you could kind of feel them like trying to take off the aprons. And I was just like, mine's is like triple knotted, and I'm just like, but this guy
is that the golden rule? Don't touch the apron.
Yeah, well, it's just kind of like, you're not paying for a naked person. If you wanted a stripper, you could have got a stripper, but you didn't.
Yeah, I guess so.
So anyway, this guy, somehow one of the women just like had scissors, and the group kind of like disperses, and he's just standing there completely naked, and it turns out one of the women has just like cut the waist ties on his
she's not a novice, she's had a few
this guy didn't really know what to say, and I was kind of like, at the time I'd still been doing butlering for a couple of years, so I was like the more senior guy there, and I was just like he didn't know what to do. I was just like, well, we're leaving because now he doesn't have a uniform to wear. And they got pretty annoyed. But yeah, it's just kind of what you'd expect. There's just sometimes they'll just go and they'll just be like I say, they'll just be like taking drugs, going bonkers. But for the most part, it's literally just like party games, pouring prosecco. So
it's quite enjoyable most of the time.
Yeah. It's just a laugh.
Yeah. There you go, Phil. What do you think? You've had the pitch.
It's not for me, I think.
Yeah,
well, you would enjoy it.
What's the hourly rate? Roughly, if you're working
if you're working for me, yeah.
You don't have to say if you're working for you, just anyway.
If you're working, I pay a bit better than other companies, but
okay.
So you get if you do a 1 hour booking, it's 50 quid, and if you do a 2 hour booking, 80.
That's not bad.
Yeah, and then you get travel money as well.
Travel money.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What for Ubers? Or are we talking bus?
We're talking petrol. If you get
petrol.
If you get an Uber to a job, that's
you don't pay mileage.
That's on your own dime. Yeah, I pay mileage, but
mileage is like king.
Well, better than Uber.
Oh no! Well, most people make profit. Anyway, this is getting boring. So yeah, Phil, you're saying no now, but I don't think it's it's not like 100% no. It's just like I'm going to evaluate my options first, see what's out there.
No, let's wait and see.
So your first three jobs, I'll do them with you, and I'll show you the ropes. There's no responsibility for you.
Just let me finish my cycling first, and I'll get in touch with you.
You can get like Kevlar tassels, so no one can cut through them.
That'd be great, actually.
Is there anything like? Can you wear anything underneath? Like when you see in like some old James Bond films, they've got like skin-colored thong pants on.
No, I don't. I think you actually sound a lot like a woman at a hen party right now, asking me that question. That's always when you get conversational, they always like ask you what's going on under the apron.
But it's just nothing.
It's just nothing. You're just existing. There's nothing on it.
You don't want to be a charlatan, do you? You need
to. For anyone that's ever wondered what happens under a butler's apron, now you know.
But don't lift it up or cut it off.
Yeah, no, you definitely don't. Yeah, if you can avoid cutting the uniform with scissors, that's always good. That's preferred.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, like big businessman of business or butler in the buff. 2 options.
We'll wait and see.
Or the guys who look after people with limited mobility in the airport, which is my favourite option.
No.
Because have you seen those guys like running through the airport with people in wheelchairs and stuff?
I don't think so. I've never taken note of them.
They don't give a shit.
Really?
So they've just got these old people in wheelchairs, and they use the front of the wheelchair to like bash open doors and all this kind of stuff, and then like you can just tell they don't do any small talk or anything like that. But I think that'd be
strictly
perfect.
Business.
Yeah.
Get
in, get out.
I can see you doing that.
No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to.
We'll do some brainstorming afterwards.
Well, let's go back to the sport because people listen to this. Well, as we found out, no, we haven't found out yet. This will be the test. People apparently listen to this for sport. So let's.
We haven't talked much sport in this podcast yet.
Yeah, we have.
We had a little taste of sport.
We had a little taste, and then a little bit of anecdotal, and then we're going back on the sport bandwagon. So it's kind of up to you where you want to pick it up. But let's say when you came to be on the GB team, I guess.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've been cracking away at trying to get into the traveling team for a good few years, and then eventually I tested well enough to make selection, and I was very excited, and then I went away on the season, and it was just absolutely terrible. I just
And was that your first experience of bobsleigh from being in the team? Because it's not the most successful sport, is it?
Yeah, no. It's so that was like my first time sliding down an actual track was as a member of the British team, because it's all off ice testing, and then so then you get basically thrown away on the season. You just have to start sliding, and it was just So the way it works is there's like the team is split into, there's a very strict like hierarchy in the team, and the year that I was doing it, I just scraped my way into the team. I was on like the lower rung of the team, and they'd taken away a lot of extra push athletes just to basically chuck in the back of the sleds of the new drivers that they were training up at the time. So you're basically taken out under the guise of being like a fully fledged member of the team, but what it came down to was that we were basically just like sacks of meat to chuck in the back of the sleds while these new drivers like learned the tracks and stuff like that.
Ooh.
So yeah, it just basically I was on the season from on that year. I was on the season from October until the end of January, which is like, that's not the full season. Full season would probably be about 2 times the length of that. after Christmas, and they record every time someone slides, and I by quite some way had done the most sliding sessions out of the entire squad.
Does that take a toll on your body?
Hugely. It's hard. Yeah, it's quite hard to describe to someone that doesn't have like a more intricate understanding of the sport. But it's commonly accepted that you probably don't do more than like 3 sliding sessions a week.
So how many times would you go down in a session?
2 or 3 times in a session.
Okay.
But there was a point at which
no more than 9 a week, basically.
Definitely not. So there was a point at which I think me and some of the other guys that were on the lower tier of the squad slid for 21 days in a row.
Jeez.
Yeah, and it was just like, it's just horrendous. And there was on top of that, like there's all the sled prep. The sleds are just like heavy as well for moving around. So it's just like doing a manual labor job essentially. And sliding, and the sliding takes a toll on your body. There's like huge G-forces involved.
So what's just like an injury thing, or like what's
it was like at high risk for injury, but it was just like huge amount of fatigue. It's just like every time you slide, it's basically just like getting like a light beating. Which if you slide once, that's fine. You can do that. You can do that 3 times a week and still like perform to a very high level or even like develop. But we would do one of the coaches always took a watt bike away on season to kind of like monitor like how we were doing basically. And some of the guys would be dropping about like 300 watts below what we had been pre-season. And we'd have this,
which for us would be alarm bells basically.
If
you drop 300 watts.
It happens quite often if you're in a heavy training block.
But say if you had a start session and like all of them were like 300 watts down in the week before, that'd be pretty bad.
Yeah. Then you know you're fatigued.
Yeah. And if you're competing that weekend and you're 300 watts down, that'd be far from ideal.
That's not good.
So this was a way on season. So this guy had like the right idea, and he was a really good coach. But we were getting this data back showing that we were performing far below where we should be, but we were in this situation where we couldn't really do anything about it. So we just it was just like the demands of the organisation were that we do this much sliding, and so we couldn't do anything about it. And it just it took like a huge toll physically and mentally, and then it got to a point in the season where. We were in Koenigsee, which was my favourite track. I don't know if you know it, Phil.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
You were German champion there, weren't you?
Yeah.
So it's a lovely area of the country, and
is that a joke? Is it?
No, it's
very
very picturesque area, and so we were sliding there, and I was man 4, so I was like right on the back of the sled. And we were going down the track as you do, and then we took there's a corner at Koenigsee called Kink, which is just like as you'd imagine, it's like a very small like aggressive turn. And if you do it wrong, you can basically like just launch yourself off and then just like have like a really rough landing, and that's what happened. And at the back of the sled, there's like a little ridge that stops the 4th man from falling out of the back. So we basically get bounced and then got my bum slammed into this little ridge with like 5 Gs of force, maybe more. And then I was just like in so much like more pain than I've ever been in my entire life. And we get off the sled, and I was just like so emotionally and physically drained that as we were on the camion, which is like the truck that takes the sleds back up to the top of the track, I was just sitting there and I was in pain, and I was looking at all these like German guys that just had like loads of energy because they were getting treated properly, and I just started crying. And then I went like spoke to the coach, and I was just like, I cannot slide anymore. I need to go home. And he dealt with it really well, that particular coach, but his hands were very much tied in terms of what he was able to do. So I did manage to get a week off sliding, and I was like sitting on like a donut cushion for a week to eat dinner. But it was just like it was this really weird situation where I did actually want like to be injured so that I didn't have to slide anymore, which is just like a horrible situation to be in. And
Well, it's just pitching ways to escape it, I guess.
Essentially, yeah. Whereas, like, in day-to-day life, like, the idea of being injured is just, like, as an athlete, is, like, it's one of the worst things that can happen.
So, obviously, the idea of the British bobsleigh team was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, so was there ever, like, a honeymoon period, or was it pretty quickly from the off? Because I think, you know, like, we were talking off-air about Meadowbank being knocked down, and seeing it like completely tarnished, and you said that was actually quite an emotional experience for you because and for me it is as well. Like, it's sad to see a venue that's had so much prestige and prowess look like that. So there's obviously a bit, you know, most sportsmen have or sports people have an emotional connection some way or another. Yeah. I still say I still love cycling. I still love it. Yeah. Did you ever have that with bobsleigh?
I would say, I think that, like, I got into bobsleigh for the sort of the reasons that I outlined earlier. It was more about kind of like what kind of athlete I wanted to be than actually, like, sort of having a passion for the sport itself. So I would say that there were fleeting times where I was like, this is a really great sport, and you'd have good sliding days, like well rested occasionally, and you'd just be like, yeah, that was really good fun, and I enjoyed doing that. But for the most part, it was just like, it just became a huge chore. And the thing was as well is that, like I've been saying, I've been working towards it for so long, and I think that this is something that you kind of touched on in your Daily Mail interview, talking about when you were at the Commonwealth Games, and you just like, you didn't want to be racing. And I think I definitely, like, obviously to a lesser extent, I experienced that, and I remember coming home at Christmas that year, and everyone was like really excited for me, and I was just like seeing everyone, and I was having to sort of like basically say to the, like, just keep up this front, that I was like really enjoying being on the British bobsleigh team and all this stuff. Well, in the back of my head, I was just thinking, there's nothing that I want to do less than going back out for the second half of the season. So it was just like, it was almost like a shame that I was experiencing that I didn't want to go back out and do it.
In terms of the hierarchical structure, was the idea that you were meant to, like, do your time doing 20 sessions or whatever before you managed to get good enough to get to that level? Like, what was the mantra behind making you do so many runs, apart from giving the driver's experience?
Yeah, so that would have, like, if you knew that there was like an end in sight to it, that would have been one thing. And if it was like kind of like an initiation process or something like that, but it wasn't that. It was just they were just trying to get bodies in. There was no concern whatsoever for like the athletic development of these guys at the lower end of the squad. And, you know, but at the end of the day, it's like an international competing squad, and like Britain's got, in terms of like the athletes themselves, Britain's got really good push athletes on the international stage, and it's just kind of like, because we don't live in a country with a track or anything like that, they don't get to start driving at basically a young age, so that kind of like takes away from the results slightly. But yeah, there was no concern for the athletic development there. It was literally just getting people in the sleds, get these guys down the track, learning the tracks, and yeah, it was just a bit miserable, really.
I guess I think there's always like a balance when we're talking about with elite sport between when it, you know, because no one. You know, so you can't do elite sport if you don't have a certain amount of resilience, I guess. Like, there's going to be a job out there for you to do something else, but you're probably not suited to a high-stress environment. And I think sometimes there's a bit of a feeling in sport to try and weed that out a little bit. But I think that comes with the knowledge that there is an end in sight, which is probably what made that so difficult. Yeah. But what's your take on it now? Do you think there's a place for a little bit of stick?
Yeah.
Instead of just carrot all the time, or like where do you sit?
I think that, like, the way to get the most out of athletes is to have them sort of in decent condition, performing the way that they want to perform. Because athletes want to perform, and I don't think obviously there's hard training, and everyone accepts that like training's gonna beat you up a bit, and we don't, like, you've already done all that off season, and then you go away on season, and you see the higher end guys in the squad sort of living in a way that is conducive to their development as athletes. So the likes of Joel Fearon, who, I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a sprinter that also does bobsleigh, absolutely incredible athlete, and he would slide probably less than he should have. just to preserve his performance. And you'd see other guys just kind of like basically having the season that you would like to have, being treated the way, and at the same time you're being expected. Your push times are getting like recorded, and then being compared to these guys that are pushing well rested, and then you're getting stick for being like 2/10 down on these other guys, and it's just like, well, I was doing the same time as them like a month ago, but I've just not been able to train and I've been sleeping like 5 hours a night since then. So what do you expect?
But I guess there's kind of that thing. So you know, you ever remember that story with Liam Phillips in Cottbus with Shane? And he got you probably know more about it than me, but he got absolutely like beasted.
Yeah.
For like a few days at a time. It was properly like, I guess he was trying to crack him.
Yeah, he was trying to just see how hard he can
Didn't
work.
he say like how much he wanted or something?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah. But it wasn't.
But the weird thing about that is that Liam speaks of that quite highly.
Yeah,
I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's definitely a point where it becomes
abusive.
Too much, though. Yeah, and I think there's very, at least at the time, perhaps less so now. A lot of British bobsleigh has its roots in the military, just because the military just loves doing bobsleigh for some reason. Like every branch of the military has their own bobsleigh squad, and so a lot of the guys that were established in the squad had come from that background, and one of the main coaches. So there was this like very military attitude towards like toughness and resilience that just went far beyond anything that I think should be expected of an athlete. And then you'd speak to the physios and the massage therapists and stuff as well, and they would just be like, yeah, I've worked with like whatever rugby team or whatever, and we've just never seen anything like this before. It's absolutely bonkers.
So where did you find solidarity in that cause then? Because you said you speak, obviously the physios are on your side, I guess, but there's only so much they can do.
Yeah.
Like were there other guys being treated the same way that you thought, you know, within it together, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a few of us that were at in a similar situation, and it was just one of those things where it was just if you don't laugh, you'll cry kind of thing, and then you would just kind of like joke about it, try and get through it. And yeah, there was a couple of guys on the squad that if they hadn't been there, if I hadn't had those kind of like friendships to support each other, it would have been a lot worse than it actually was.
Is that something that you almost look back on with a tinge of positivity, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. There's a
lot of camaraderie that gets built through adversity a lot of the time.
Absolutely, and there were days where you would be, everyone for whatever reason would just like have high energy levels on a given day, and you'd have a great day, or then there would be days where you just felt absolutely crap, but you could be completely open with these guys about it, and so that was definitely, and because they were going through almost the exact same thing, you know, there was definitely some solidarity there. And there was one of the guys as well. This is just another example of the ridiculousness of some of the situations that we were in. But one of the guys had, I think it was some kind of norovirus or something like that. It was like severe. Like he was on the toilet.
On both ends.
Yeah. And he was on the toilet a lot. And
hold on. In South Africa, I had this basically, and I was sharing with Phil in these little huts.
Yeah.
Like 6 of you guys.
And there was 2 of us. Yeah. So basically, me and him were sharing, and we were trying to quarantine everyone. And he was so lazy, he didn't want to move out. So he just put up with it the whole time. But meanwhile, he was threatening me with this clenched fist the whole time. He's like, "If I get ill, I'm gonna fucking knock you out." And then basically, like, the coaches came up to him and talked through this little like patio window, and they're like, "Phil, no, seriously, you got to move." The doctor says. And he just closes the patio. He just closes the shutters and goes, "No." And then that was
the thing is, it wasn't like a norovirus. It was food poisoning.
It wasn't food poisoning.
100%
because everyone got it at different times.
Yeah, but hits you different times, doesn't it? Like people react differently to it.
I don't know. All I know is the funniest thing is after one of the toilets had seen significant use, they managed to convince one of the boys that he dropped he'd lost his phone, and they managed to convince him that he dropped it down the toilet.
I know. So, what was he thinking?
He went elbow deep into this toilet, down the U-bend, to try and find this phone, which obviously wasn't there, after it's had about 2 weeks of horrific scenes. He was fuming after that. I think he probably still hasn't forgiven us.
It's mental, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so anyway, some things are unforgivable.
Yeah, a little anecdote there. But anyway, so you had the guy had the know about this.
So basically, this was in Königssee, and it was a heavy day of sliding, and this was our second session of the day. So this guy was on the toilet, like I was saying, a lot. He normally his body normally gave him about 40 seconds of notice before he needed to be on a toilet.
How long's a bobsleigh then?
Oh, like a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. But then when you get to the bottom, you're far away from a toilet, and obviously there's a lot of force getting put through your body that's like
downward.
Yeah. So anyway, so he shouldn't even have been there. He should have been at home with his family. But no, he was there, and we were in the line up to the block. So he was going to be sliding in the next like 5 minutes or so, and then the slide was just like moving along, and it was almost time for his slide to go down, and his driver was just like, where the hell is he? And then one of the coaches is just like, Ben, you need to go and get Jimmy like right now. And I was just like, well, we both know what he's doing. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, pull him off the toilet? So I was just like, okay. So I just like ran down to the toilet. I was just like looking for Jimmy, and it just like by some quirk of fate, he just came off the toilet at that time. But it was just like one of those situations where it's just like, literally, what do you want me to do? Like he's on the toilet out of necessity. I can't just go and pull him off the toilet. Let's just not slide this run. Surely it's not that big a deal. But yeah, it was just one of those situations where it was just like that literally just wasn't an option. And he was sliding for a really long time in that condition. And I think he lost about 10 kilograms over the space of a week just from that. Shit. Just because he
gets worse through the physical exertion.
Yeah,
like you shouldn't be doing anything.
He could barely eat, and he was doing a lot of sliding, and
but I bet he ended up shredded, and now he works for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, I still keep in touch with that guy. So we always have a wee laugh about some of the stories from away on season, mainly that one. But yeah, it was just kind of it was just bad. And there was like, so after that story that I told you about when I bashed my bum, and it was like horrendously bruised. I had like a fully blue bum. And I couldn't sit down. I couldn't sit down on like this chair. Never mind sitting in a sled, getting like forced down into the bottom of it. And I was just like, well, send me home. I need to go home. I was completely candid with them. I was just like, I don't want to be here. I can't slide, so send me home. And they just didn't. There was just like kind of I think
with us it's quite the opposite. Like, you always try and minimize your injury so you don't get sent home.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you're like,
I've got so back, and then they just pull you out the competition straight away, don't
they? It's like it's pretty much as soon as you're on the sidelines, it's like, well, you shouldn't be here. See you later.
Yeah. So it's just
but almost the idea of being threatened to stay can be a little bit worse.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So it's just like, so I was like, they could not make me slide. And then we'd have like a kind of meeting every morning after breakfast, and they'd say like who was like what the slides were going to be that day and that kind of thing. And then one day I'm just sitting there on my donut pillow that I've been given by one of the physios, and one of the coaches just like says my name on this slide, and I was just like, well, I guess I'm just sliding then. And so I was just like loaded up on painkillers, and then I kind of just got through it through force of will. But it was.
Could you not have just said, I'm not doing it? Like
I could have. I think if I'd been in that situation again, I would have just said, no, I'm not doing that. But
I think it's a little bit different though, because if you remember what like most athletes are like the first year they get on a squad of a British team, there's not much they won't do.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And I imagine like 17-year-old us, like, or maybe you, but Cian and I, like if you did everything you could to just get on with it basically.
Yeah. And there was very much this attitude that came from that, like the military presence in the squad.
But whereas the top guys could have said that easily.
Oh yeah.
They just say no, I'm not sliding.
Yeah. Like without wanting to sort of, I'm not like calling anyone out, but if like one of the top guys like Joel or something like that just said, I don't want to slide today, because X, Y, or Z, that was fine, and that's the way it should be. It wasn't like I wanted everyone else to be in the same situation I was in. I just thought everyone should be in that situation where they're being treated with like dignity and respect. And
so where did you? So from that point of view, could you know? Because again, maybe in our instance, the physio would step in and say, like, Ben's not ready to train. He's not fit.
Yeah, well, there was just nothing. It was just like this kind of like there was nothing that could be said. You could have a physio, you could have one of the coaches. There was like I said, there was one coach that like got on really well with. You could have them sort of on your side, but at the end of the day, it just didn't matter. There was just like this is the number of runs down the track that this driver needs, so this is what you're doing, kind of thing.
Jeez.
And
but from like a duty of care point of view, that sounds pretty outrageous.
Yeah,
because if we talk about injuries or illnesses where things can, so obviously you got like a pretty bad bruise, but it's probably not going to cause you lifelong issues. Yeah. But if you have like stomach bug or concussion or something like that, that's stuff where, or like say a fracture, that's where that's going to get deteriorated again and again and again.
Yeah, because I think
so even in those more extreme circumstances. So I guess that's how it was, because we had the guy with. Oh, that's the camera stopped. We'll just finish this bit then. So we had the guy with the what was it called again? The vomiting. And all that kind of stuff.
I can't remember what virus it was, but yeah.
But that didn't get him over either.
No, and I think that definitely made it last a lot longer than it should have.
Yeah, so obviously it wasn't a particularly pleasant time of your life. So what how did you get out of it?
So obviously the season finished. Eventually they did send me home. I was supposed to be doing, because when in bobsleigh because people don't start it until like later in their lives than compared to other sports. You're a junior until you're 25. So at the time, I think I was 25, and I was going to be competing in the World Juniors, and I was just like, I just cannot. I don't want to be here for another week. And then eventually, one of the massage guys just kind of like made it his duty just to get me home, because I was like really friendly with him, and he was just like, yeah, I can't sort of stand by and just watch this happen. So
I guess to put it into context, sports medicine probably has a bit more of leeway than normal medicine. So like if you go into a normal GP and you say, I've got a chest infection, it'd be like, I'll just take the week off work, or like take a couple of days off. Sports medicine, it's all about trying to sustain that effort. It's trying to get you on there as long as possible without becoming a welfare issue. Yeah. So for that guy, that's obviously where the needle flicked it away.
Yeah. So eventually they begrudgingly sent me home, and this was a recurring theme as well, was that they refused to get me flights like to Edinburgh where I lived.
Okay.
They were just like, this happened at the like in the middle of the season at Christmas as well. They were just like, right, we'll fly you to like London or Manchester or something like that, and then and I was just like, what the hell am I supposed to do? Yeah. Like they just saw it as their duty just to get you home. But I was just like quite crafty, and I was just like, well, if you guys like just book my flights all in a oneer all the way up to Edinburgh, I will, because I just said it would be cheaper. I don't even know if that's true, but and then I'll like reimburse you for the Edinburgh portion of the journey.
You just never do.
And just never did. Yeah. So they never saw that money. But yeah, eventually they flew me back to the UK, and then I made my way back up to Edinburgh off my own back.
Jeez.
And I just it took me a wee while to kind of like come fully clean to people close to me that I just didn't want to do bobsleigh, because I just felt ashamed. This is something that I've been working towards for like on and off for about 5 years, and then I just like had like quite a relatively small taste of it, and I was just like, no, I don't want to be involved in this at all. So yeah, eventually I was just honest with like the coaches and just people in my life, and I didn't want to go back to it, and everyone was really good about it. They were quite surprised, obviously, because they knew like how much I wanted to be part of the team.
Did it feel like a relief to be out of it, because you didn't have to pretend that you were enjoying it?
Yeah, exactly. It was a huge load off my shoulders. And then when I got back, I kind of like, I was a good sprinter, but I was like pretty heavy. So when I got back, I just started losing a bit of weight, and then my times were looking really good. And then I just I had a bit of a nasty injury just in training, and at that time I just decided, I'm gonna not bother with sport really anymore. And yeah, so it was quite a nice exit from the sport, I would say, because I think I just got to a point where I'd sort of like got everything out of sport that I wanted to. And I was able to just kind of slowly wean myself off it, and it was like coincidentally, I was doing my sprint training at Meadowbank, and it was around the time that Meadowbank was like starting to close. That was happening, so it just kind of like when Meadowbank closed, I was like ready to kind of close that chapter.
So what's the kind of learnings that you can take from that then? Because I guess presumably it wasn't because you didn't like the sport; it was more because of the environment and the culture, I guess. So like, what's without. I guess without saying, this was shit and this was shit, like what's the things that should be done better that maybe, for a driver, sitter, lighter?
Yeah, driver,
like you in the future would stay.
I just think that they're like, I don't know the inner workings of UK sport or anything like that, but I do think that there should be like a standard that you have to, like a standard of treatment for athletes that gets applied like universally across all of the organisations in the UK. And I don't think there's any one person like going around with a with a bit of paper, say like checking off like, oh yeah, this organisation is doing this right. So I think that bobsleigh does lend itself to that a bit more than other sports because there is only one location that you can train in the UK. And because when you're away on season, you're just like out of the country for like a good few months at a time. So it is different. It is different from other sports in a few ways. But I think that when UK sport does an investigation, I think that there it should be a bit more rigorous. There should be more rules in place to kind of like just prevent that kind of exploitation.
Well, so they did do an investigation in bobsleigh, didn't they?
Yeah,
and they found culture bullying off the back of it.
Yeah, so I think there were two investigations. There was an initial investigation which apparently returned nothing.
Everyone loves an initial investigation and a follow-up.
Yeah, so they just kind of like tried to, it was just like a brush under the rug kind of thing. And then there was the BBC investigation, and that... I did an interview for that, and then a few of the other ex squad members did interviews for that, and suddenly UK Sport kind of like took notice of it, and there was another investigation, and the findings were completely different the second time around. Once it was a bit more in the public consciousness. Then there was a few people lost their job, which I think was a very good thing. There was a lot of pushback. There was a lot of like. Sort of drama on Facebook off the back of it, because I was the only person that actually like went on video for my interview.
So what was your motivation behind that? Just because no one else was listening and it felt like a thing to do for the people that were still in there?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the guys in the squad, obviously their hands were tied. They couldn't do that and protect their place in the squad. And for people at my level as well, there were guys that just wanted to be. They wanted the prestige of being able to say I compete for GB, and they were basically, because that their desire to be there was so strong, they would just put up with anything. I thought it was an important thing to do, and it definitely, like, I'm not going to say that it wasn't like a single-handed thing. There was like lots of people involved in it, but I'd like to think that I contributed a little bit to the changes that then took place.
Because I guess quite a common argument is that you are doing it for attention or something like that as well.
Very much so.
But I guess the thing is like you said you were done with sport, so that's not really an angle there. Yeah. And also I don't think many people are going to be hiling Butlers in the buff on the back of you doing an interview about sports welfare. Yeah. But what was the reaction on Facebook? You said it was a bit mixed.
Yeah. So there were some of the older athletes. Actually, I did a post on Facebook basically because the interview that I did got cut down a huge amount. So there's a lot of stuff that kind of like wasn't presented in the same context maybe that I'd said it at the time. So I just did a post kind of like clarifying my stance. And then just like a lot of people got involved, ex sort of directors and stuff like that. I got into like a huge argument with one of the guys that used to be on the board for British Bobsleigh, but he wasn't even involved with the organisation anymore. So, but he was like he was part of like the initial setup of it, so he took it as like a personal insult that I was concerned about the well-being of athletes.
Yeah, I think that's always quite I mean, that's why it took me quite a while to figure the right way to kind of tell my story, because I don't think for me doing the kind of Dan Lowen 6 o'clock news was ever really an option, because it condenses it so short and stuff is taken out of context.
Yeah.
So I think I ended up doing like the Daily Mail, which was in depth, had editorial, and then also you went on 5 Live, and that ended up being like an hour long. Exactly. I think there's some issues that you can cover quickly, and there's some that you can't. But I guess it's about, obviously I was in a bit of a different position to you in that sense. Like there's a BBC documentary coming up, and this is the right thing to do, I guess.
Yeah. So I think in your situation, you're still involved with a lot of people in the cycling world.
Yeah.
And like cycling, so like your cycling background is instrumental to your livelihood. So I think there's like a certain way that you go about things when you still have these contacts. But for me, I just didn't care. I had no intention of going back to bobsleigh.
Yeah.
And I was quite privileged in that sense that I didn't have any obligations to anyone. I could just be like, yeah, this is kind of what I think.
I guess if it ended up in a decent investigation, then it was kind of job done, I guess. Yeah.
I would say I was definitely happy with the outcome. And then speaking to the guys that are still involved in the setup now, things have improved a lot. And there's still some things that could do with changing, but I think that there's a baseline level of stuff that's going to be going on in any organisation. But yeah, I think it is like it was messy, but I think now it does sound like it's in a much better place than it was.
Does that feel slightly cathartic in a way that you didn't just go through a shit time for nothing? Absolutely, yeah. I think up until that BBC interview, I did kind of feel like it had all I'd just like gone through this experience that I found really unpleasant for nothing. So when that article got published, I was just like, yeah, I think that was it. I got the sense definitely that it had all been worthwhile. It hadn't been like a waste of time. And yeah, speaking to guys and speaking to one of the coaches that I am still kind of pally with, I'm really happy with how things seem to be going at the moment. Yeah, fair enough. Well, that's a nice way to end the British bobsleigh experience, I guess. Definitely. I guess one of the things that we wanted to pick up on just before we wind up would be about the kind of physical fundamentals of what it is to be a bobsleigh athlete. So I guess a good place to start is like forget maybe some of the dodgy things that British bobsleigh did in the past, but like what's your kind of ideal week, I guess, as a bobsleigh athlete, so training wise? Off season, it would be. For me, I was like, I respond well to sort of high frequency, low volume training. So I train 2 times a day most days, and like I'd have to stay on top of like. Phil likes low frequency, low volume. That's a lie. You like to do a PB every session? Are you one of those guys?
I'd love to, but it's not happening these days. I need to put some work into it. Okay. I think, for especially when you're running, like injury prevention is a massive thing. So I found I was like very prone to injury beforehand, and I just like through trial and error, I just found that was the way to get the most out of my body and to stay the least injured. So I would do normally I'd have like three gym focus days, 3 track focus days, and the track focus days would be like a short sprint day, a longer sort of tempo day, and then like a top end day. So it would just be kind of like rolling 60s or something like that, where you're just focusing purely on that peak velocity. And then in the gym, it's probably quite similar to the kind of things that you guys were doing. I know your training program was like highly modified. Oh yes, yeah. Like pressing sumo deadlifts is all you did, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, you can't squat. It's hilarious. Yeah, I could. Callum was on the taper every week, tapering every week. That is not true. Of course, you did. You know how hard the leg press is. You can barely get through a couple sets. It isn't as fatiguing as like a squat session. Then why do you make such a song and dance about it every time you get in your program? Well, I'm doing it, aren't I? Well, I don't know. Yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah, but it's not that hard as you make it. Yeah, but you're doing a tiny little weight on it as well. You're getting a bit angry, aren't you? A bit defensive. Sometimes when I see you do the leg press, you've got the same face that you have on when you do core. It's just of absolute disgust at what you're doing. Of course, you ruined the leg press for me. I ruined it, did you? You ruined it. Oh, before that, you loved it. Yeah. Stop embarrassing me. Stop fighting. I hate it when mum and dad fight. But yeah, it was very much. It was. Did you leg press?
No, I didn't actually. I do now, but I didn't at the time.
Now.
I was very...
And now he's happier and more successful.
But I was very squat focused as well, so I can sympathise with.
Sit on the fence.
What did you squat?
With Phil's position. Are we talking numbers?
Yeah, go on.
So the most I didn't do 1 rep max as often, but I did at my peak. I squatted 200 for 5.
Ooh, and he's a lot taller than you as well.
And there's video evidence of this.
It's not competition, Callum.
I don't think that I wouldn't be anywhere near that now. And I power cleaned 145, I think.
That's good.
Yeah.
And then for like in terms of like sprint times through the timing gates, I would try and stay below 3 seconds for a flying 30. Normally about.
So that's from a standing start.
No, that would be with like a 30-meter acceleration.
Right, okay.
And then for the standing 30, I think I was 360 something.
Okay.
What
does like Usain Bolt do?
I'm not sure. It's not really comparable because like when you're doing it through the gates, it's different. But but Usain Bolt, his peak velocity would be a lot higher than that. He would be like, I don't know, maybe like 2.25 for a flying 30. And for the standing 60, I think I did 671 at my fastest. And then I got a bit faster after that when I lost weight, but I wasn't.
That's about the same speed you manage on a bike, pretty much, for a standing
Similar.
60.
Really?
Yeah.
So standing 60 is 7.1.
Really?
The fastest man 1 does like 6.5, but if you're like on a man 3, you probably do 7.1.
I thought aren't you the fastest man 1 in the world?
No, I actually think you are the fastest man 1 in the world. You just don't know it yet. You just haven't woken up. You got it inside you.
Set up a charity 60-meter race between you and like a track sprinter or something. That'd be
and just to make it interesting, we'll put a cheetah in there.
Yeah.
Make it Discovery Channel friendly.
It's happened before, yeah.
Yeah, I saw it in Havana. Yeah. Get the
First
cheetah. The cheetah wasn't hungry enough.
Robert First one has done a few times with like speed skaters and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like a drag race.
Because we always said the standing quarter, which is 60 meters, is about the point where a cyclist would start winning against the runner, basically.
Yeah.
But like they'd be behind until that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, fair enough. So what, like, when you're actually in, because I guess like hardly anyone's been on a velodrome, but I guess even fewer people have actually gone down a bobsleigh run.
Yeah.
Can you describe to us what it's actually like sitting in there?
It depends what mood you're in. If you don't want to be there, it's like the most unpleasant experience in the world.
Well, let's presume that most people that are going to try it off the back of this podcast will want to be there.
Yeah, and if you want to be there, like it's really good fun. It's just like a roller coaster, except there's like a real element of risk that you could actually crash. So. Yeah, you're pulling like I can't remember the exact figures on G-forces that you pull through the corners, but it's like an assault on the senses, and it's like so loud, and just like the vibrations are just like ridiculous. But when you're sort of amped up in that situation, you've just pushed really hard. It can be a lot of fun if you're behind like a good driver as well.
So how does it feel from a competitive point of view? Because obviously you don't have much of a sense of what's going on until you cross the line.
Yeah. So you like.
Or do you know if it's going well? I guess
you learn the track as well as a push athlete. Like you don't have to learn the track like before you go down it, but as you do more and more runs, you know exactly where you are in the track, just because you're not seeing anything. But you feel the corners and you know where you are, and then you like if you do a good push, and you'll be able to see that and reflected in the time when you get to the bottom. So it is like, it is definitely an interesting sport. I don't really know how it even came about. It's like a very strange sport.
It's classic Germany, I think. It's got Germany written all over it. Have you seen the one? Have you seen the one when two men like lie on top of each other and slide down the hill?
No.
The two-man luge.
Yeah, two-man luge. That is the most German thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's the most erotic sport.
Should I give it a quick Google search?
Oh, where did it come from?
Yeah.
Okay, you do that. I'll ask another question. So, like with so let's put the vibration and the noise into context. So is it so vibey that you can't really see straight, and is it so loud that your ears will ring afterwards?
Yeah, and so there'd be sometimes. Like the vibrations, it depends on the track, because some tracks are a lot smoother, but if it was like a really like sort of uneven surface track, the vibrations would sometimes be so bad that you would see like interference on the edges of your vision.
It started in Switzerland, apparently.
There we go.
It didn't begin until the 19th century. Yeah, it's pretty much. I mean, that's a very controversial thing to say, Philip.
Is it? Is it?
I don't know. You'll cut it out later anyway, so forget about it.
But yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. But you definitely need to be in the mood for it. And when you're like psyched up before a race, when you do it in a race as well, when you kind of like when you're in that like state of arousal, for want of a better word. But before you race, it takes on the experience changes entirely.
You rely really heavily on that state of arousal a little bit when it comes to racing, because you always used to say like 2 times faster in race day.
Yeah, I like racing.
But is the thrill of not just going down that hill, pulling a couple G, and the fact that you might crash and die, is that not enough?
Well, you need to be in that state before you get into the sled, because you need to be coming to the push block with that state of mind already. So yeah, it's a good laugh. Race days were always fun. But yeah, talking about state of arousal, the German guys loved a heightened state of arousal. Yeah, so you see
they do in cycling as well.
So you do there's huge amounts of aggression. So for me, I quite like getting sort of a bit amped up. So there would be like on the block, there would be like a bit of shouting, a bit of like kind of male like slapping of each other's backs and stuff like that.
Oh yes.
And that was all I needed to kind of get where I needed to be. But there was some of the German athletes were absolutely psychotic on the block. There's one that stands out for me. I remember it vividly. And he was standing on the block, and he just like. He put his hands like into his helmet, and it looked like he was like grabbing his eyes. And I remember at the time thinking that he was just like trying to like pull his eyes out of his skull, because he was just like screaming at the top of his voice while just like having his hands like just obviously pressed against his eyes, but it just looked like he was trying to like grab them out of his skull.
It is quite satisfying if you press against your eyes sometimes when they're closed.
I don't know, but he was obviously just like pushing his hands there, and he just like screamed. And so there was a lot like some of the guys are just like these huge like beardy, ridiculously muscular German guys.
The Germans are pretty much one of the.
They're the dominating for Germany, USA, Canada. I would say are the main ones, but yeah, there's a huge depth in the German squad of guys, and they're all absolutely terrifying.
Did you know any sliders at Sportschule?
No, we didn't have it. We didn't have bobsleigh at the sports shooter.
Yeah, just to explain, Germany has boarding schools where they bring all the sports, the promising sport kinders together.
Yeah. You don't even have to be promising, just
have an interest.
Yeah, you just have to be interested in sport. If you really want to pursue it, you can join one of these schools. And
Germany's got a really interesting. I think it's like similar in France as well. They've got a really interesting way of funding a lot of their athletes, because I think almost all of the German bobsleigh athletes were in the police.
Yeah, it's the same in cycling or the other sports.
Yeah, so they would do. I don't know how much actual police work German cyclists would do, but I know that the German bobsleigh guys, because it was like very much just like half of the year that they were doing bobsleigh, they would actually be policemen for the other half of the year. And I just used to picture like
it's scary.
It would be absolutely terrifying. I was just like, the crime rate in Germany must be so low, just because you've got these 115 kilogram bearded German men that could.
I actually think we've done Germany a lot of good by taking Phil out of the German police. If he had stayed with German cycling, then I don't know. I can't begin to think what might have happened.
Horrible thing. But I don't actually know. I think they have to work like 30 days a year, maybe.
Yeah, it's about a month a year,
like
I think.
That, yeah.
Did you ever get the chat from one of the... Because whenever we went to a race in Germany, especially the German army guys, like, it didn't matter what time of the year it was, they'd probably say it about 6 times a year. They go, I don't go so well today. I've just been walking in the forest for 6 months with no food and only a backpack full of sandbags.
No food and a backpack full of cigarettes.
Because they were like, oh no, I don't go very well today. And all of a sudden they qualify first.
Yeah.
And they'd be like...
Sometimes after a big walk, you do go well. So maybe that's what you need to do.
Maybe, I don't know.
Just reinforcing this German stereotype.
Anyway, so just I guess final question, as someone who's done a whole bunch of different sports, like what would, if someone said to you today, or maybe you say you aren't a cyclist or a bobsleigh or driver or whatever, like if someone said to you today, like what sport appeals to you the most, which one is the one that You say you still do. What would you say?
I still cycle a lot. I think like if I were to ever go back to do a sport, I'm not just saying it because I'm like sitting with you, Per, but I would do track cycling because I think that's a sport that I have like the fondest memories of in terms of just like enjoyment of the actual sport itself, and the toll it takes on your body. I think is less than.
I mean, well, ask Phil what his worst injury is.
What's your worst injury, Phil?
Cut my finger.
That's genuinely it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Hey, I cut your finger the other day in London, and you went nuts at me.
You did.
Why were you cutting his finger?
It was an accident. So I had a metal bank card.
So sharp.
And like the thing that Phil hates more than anything is not knowing something. So it was black, and I kept showing him little bits and be like, "Oh, what's this? What's this? What's this?" And like a little magpie. I
hate when he just tells me, "Oh, this is a secret," and I just need to know.
So I keep saying to him, like, I've got a really big secret.
So did you eventually just grab it out of his hand?
Well, he was showing it to me, so I just like went to grab it, and he just went like. No, I
pulled it out, and. Yeah, so basically, I've never seen someone make such a song and dance over a paper cut in all my life.
Like, you still got the cut?
Yeah. You can't see it.
It's quite bad.
No, that's a paper cut.
Yeah. So basically, and I'm asking him, so we're on the tube, and he's like, meanwhile, he's looking at it as if it's like a gunshot wound, and he's like poking it and squeezing it, and like, I'm like
trying to squeeze blood
he's
out
like,
of it.
I need to get a plaster before we go to the next place. And I'm like, a plaster? Just stop squeezing it and it'll be fine. And then I said, like, okay, genuinely, because I could tell he was angry. I was like, genuinely, give me your pain score out of 10. 10.
10.
10.
That was the most pain. That was the most pain a person.
No, you had your serious face on. You had your serious face on.
Listen to me. It actually didn't hurt. I just wanted to make you feel really guilty.
No, but you were a bit angry.
I was angry.
Yeah, that's exactly. See? 10 out of 10 pain.
Yeah.
It's a miracle you're still alive.
I actually remember when we were in Australia once. This is back when I had had one of these massive drones, and I gave it to Phil, switched on, and then went down the corner and then fired it up.
and all you hear actually cut people quite badly.
All you hear is this guy going, and then he's fuming. Like, you were genuinely angry at that point.
That could like cut off your fingers, couldn't it?
Yeah.
So
he's an idiot.
It turned out it like scratched his chest a little bit, and he comes running after me with his fist, and he's like punching me, saying like, "Oh, this is outrageous, and then all the team get involved, and it's a big drama and all this kind of stuff. And then we're like, "Oh, you okay? You okay?" And he's holding it. He's like, "Ah, no, it's so bad. It's so sore. Oh, you're an idiot. I'm never going to cycle again, and it's all your fault." And then all of a sudden we're like, "Oh, Phil, let us see the cut. Like, let us see it then." So he takes off his top, and he's like, and we're like, "Well, where is it? Like, where's the cut?" And he's like, "Oh, it's here. It's so sore, isn't it? It's so sore." And then he looks down, and he's like, "Oh shit, there's nothing there."
I was joking, half joking.
You were not joking.
Also half upset because you're an actual idiot for switching it off.
Yeah, but
you could have killed him.
It's not funny.
Well, you weren't holding it near your jugular, and if you were, you're an idiot for doing so.
I think we all learned a valuable lesson about drone safety.
I've since sold the drone anyway. Yeah.
For everyone's safety.
Yeah, exactly. You would have done the same thing.
No.
Oh, you're quite risk averse, but most normal people would have done the same thing. But anyway, so I think that kind of brings the podcast to a positive end.
I would agree
on
with
drone
that.
safety.
Yeah.
Don't fly in the airports or take it up too high either. And we're going to drive back down to Manchester in my car because you're getting a new car. We haven't talked about that yet.
Car, yeah. On Wednesday, I've got a car sponsor. Shout out to Skoda Stockport.
Oh, how did that come about?
I just got in touch with them and...
Can I have a car, please?
Yeah, pretty much.
Can I have a car, please?
Yeah, they were really... They said, yeah,
right.
would love to sponsor you. And
we'd love to.
Right. And I'm getting a Skoda Superb for a year.
Oh,
so
nice, reliable car.
Thanks to them for helping me out.
And also HMRC will be thanking this podcast for just hearing that you're going to have a free car for the entire year.
Oh, cut that out.
So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing now. And the next episode is going to be off the back of our Jolly Cycle on Monday.
Yes.
But we'll probably put that out the week after.
Yeah.
And then after that, we've also got Dan Bingham coming on the podcast, famous aerodynamicist, and the kind of lead guy for Hoop Walk Bike, which is a team which has caused a lot of upset amongst the established teams in track cycling.
Yeah.
Well, not upset, I mean just difference. Something new.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tune in next week and the week after. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it was great.
It was interesting.
It was.
Yeah. And Phil, remember to give him your business card.
Of course, yeah. Be in touch. There's always a job open for you.
Add you on LinkedIn.
Are you on LinkedIn?
Are you on LinkedIn?
I am actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah, hold on. You need to do the shout outs before you finish anyway.
I don't really. I mean,
unless
do
you
any
want to.
Do any of your listeners want Butlers?
Well, I don't know. You need to tell them the company.
All right, tartanbutlers.com.
Tartanbutlers.com.
If you fancy a butler, and if you fancy a butler, and if you I don't know, if you want to follow me on Twitter, Ben McCullough. So Ben MCY on Twitter. That's my plugs.
All right. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. And I think if we ever need a butler in the buff, you'll be the first choice if I'm hosting the event in Scotland.
Brilliant. Well, also, if you're in Edinburgh during the Fringe, I'll be doing some stand up.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. No, I'm good. I thought, are we going up to Fringe? I'm going up to Fringe.
Why? I'm not.
Well, I was looking at you. Yeah.
When is it?
August.
We
talk
about Phil, you have to come up. You have to come up in August.
Okay.
You have to experience Fringe.
Is it a free one, ticketed?
The one I don't actually have my own show, but I'm going to be doing a few nights at Escaping Trump's America, which is just a bunch of American comics that have come over, and they seem to quite like me, so I'm going on their show.
Oh, right, okay.
And other than that, I'll just be doing the free shows. But if you follow me on Twitter, then you'll see what shows I'm doing.
It's got a Trumpy angle.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah, well, you like that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, fair. Right. Okay, good shout out. Yeah, we'll link it in the description below.
Amazing.
Yeah. Come to the American Trump show in the Fringe.
Yeah.
How big's the venue?
It is at Frankenstein's.
Oh, big.
So pretty large venue.
Yeah. That's good going for the Fringe.
Yeah, I'm not getting paid for it though.
Well, you got to spend money to make money.
Exactly.
Well, no one makes a profit in the Fringe anyway.
No.
Anyway,
Nobody makes a profit doing stand up, but
whoa. Anyway, thanks for coming on. And
thank you guys.
Tune in next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.